At 6:10, that thing is 5 minutes ahead. Well, it's 5 minutes ahead. Okay, we'll do the roll call. Mr. Sellier. Here. Mr. LaFoyle. Here. Ms. Williams. Ms. Adair. And Mr. Salinas is here. Dr. Mackey.
Present.
Okay. We're doing the budget review for fiscal year 2014-15. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll start with, item 3A, fiscal year 2015 budget preparation workshop. Or you want to do review of budget status?
We're going to do the first. If it's
Okay.
review, we'd like to
Okay.
do the first
Yes, sir.
one.
Let's go ahead.
The presentation time is broken out in several sections. The first part is going to be on the PowerPoint. We're just going to cover it. It will take a few minutes to go through it. And I'm not really going to go through everything in this PowerPoint. I'm just going to highlight some of the numbers and y'all can continue the board book. If you have any questions, of course, stop me and ask me later. Just real quick, just as a reminder, to set some of the groundwork, we have to adopt our budget. Our fiscal year begins on July the 1st, so we have to make sure that we adopt the budget prior to July the 1st. So we have to do budget first. The budget cycle, we kind of go through some, we go through planning, preparation, evaluation, and the participants are all the people that having to do with the budget, the principals and directors, the site-based committees at the schools, the administration, and of course, all the board members. The board is required to adopt 3 budgets. One is for the general operating fund, the second one is for the child nutrition fund, and the third one is for the interest and sinking fund. Tonight, we'll touch a little bit on each one of these, but we're mostly going to focus on the general operating fund, which is our biggest budget. So this particular slide shows you the revenue for the general operating fund. It's a 5-year trend, and that's what you're going to see on all these slides, the 5-year trend of where we're at. I'm just going to really go look at a couple of things here where you can see our local revenue is at $67.1 million for this current year. State is $87 million. Our total revenue for the year is $165 million. If I go too fast or you all need some more information on these slides, just please ask me. Same information, but in a budget, in a graph form, you'll see that our state sources of revenue for the general operating fund is the largest portion that we get our money from. We get 55% from the state, and 39% comes from local. Of course, the majority of that being our local taxpayers' dollars that we collect. On the expense side for the general operating fund, for this year again, you'll see that our largest expenditure by far is our payroll costs at $136.6 million. Excuse me, $136.6 million. So our total budget for this year on the expense side is $169.2 million. In graph format, you'll see that everybody always asks me, what percent of our payroll makes up our budget. For this year, it's 78%. That number changes a little bit every year depending on how much we budget in different things. But right now, based on the current budget we have adopted, it's at 78% for the current 13-14 school year. You'll see the next largest portion is at contracted services, and the largest portion that's in there is the utility bills. That's what's in that cost, so that's why it's a larger portion of it. This particular slide is on the general operating fund, and it kind of shows you a little bit by function where we spend most of our money. And you'll see that the majority of our money is spent on that first category, which is instructional and instructional-related services. So it's what's actually happening in the classroom and the services that we're providing to those students in the classroom. For this current year, that number is at $105.5 million. I'm going to go to the next slide. This shows you the same information in a chart format. So you see that we spend 62% of our money on instruction, what's going on in the classroom and the services we're providing to the students directly in the classroom.
That's the recommended?
The recommendation, well, it kind of varies. At one time, they had adopted that they were wanting, I think, 65%. And then they backed off of that because they said there was really no correlation between that and any kind of test scores to show that that was the number, the magic number that everybody had to be at to make sure that you're performing well. So they kind of, like I said, backed away from that. Move on to the next slide. General operating fund, again, just kind of a synopsis real quick. For 13-14, you'll see our revenue, again, is $165 million. Expenditures, $169 million. You'll see our fund balance there. Right now, when we prepared this slide, it was at $36.1 million. The board, though, at the last board meeting, asked us to reserve $3 million for future land purchases. So that number is going to decrease by $3 million. So it'll be at $33 million at the end of this fiscal year if all the budget things come to pass. So right now, with $36 million, we're at 21.8 3% of our expenditures. The board has a policy that we cannot go below 17%. With removing that $3 million from there, we're still at 29% is that 17% number. So we're still about $2 million over what we need to be, where we can be at for the 17% rule. The 17% is 2.
2 months?
The 17% is 2 months.
Okay, and then, what's the VAS, what happened between 2012 and 2013? Where was that extra money?
The revenues, state revenues, and tax collections. Our property values went up a little bit, so we got more money from the local property taxpayers. And also the funding for the state was changed for this, this biennium. So the state kicked in a lot of increased revenue as well.
So are they going to kick it in again?
No, not until they, it only happens. Usually, what happens is the legislature meets every 2 years, so they set a budget for the 2 years. So we've already gotten the amount they're going to do for this biennium. That's why we're able to give you numbers now, because typically, we're waiting till the very end saying we don't know what's going to happen. So we did get a little bit more for 14-15, which is the year we're going to start budgeting for, but it's not as drastic as this. We did pick up from the state. I think it was like $4 million more during the next year, but most of that was because of increased student ADA. It wasn't just because if we would have had the same amount of kids, no change, that money wouldn't have. It would have increased a little bit, but not by that much.
And you're going to get the tax rolls of the when?
We already have the preliminary values from their appraisal, and the residential right now looks like it went up about 8% on average.
Mine did.
And so what happened is that just like that $4 million, and we'll talk about this a little bit here. We're getting a little ahead, but that's good. We're going to get $4 million increase from the state. We're also going to get a $4 million increase from the local taxes because of that increase. Okay. And so this kind of just shows you in a graph form what has been happening to our fund balance, and you'll see that in 10-11 when it went to that 33.4. We also, the board at that time also asked us to reserve $2 million for land purchases. That's why it dipped down at that time. Otherwise, it would have stayed at that $35 million. And in 13-14, it went down to 36 for now. And again, that number does not show the $3 million the board asked us to reserve. So it's really going to be down to almost the 10-11 levels at $33 million. Now, this is the Child Nutrition Fund. Again, this is the fund where we pay for all the lunches for our kiddos. The majority of the funds here come from federal sources. As you'll see from the top number here, there $9 million is coming from federal money for this particular fund. $2.2 million coming from local, and again, that's what we collect from the kiddos when they're buying their lunches. The full pay price is what makes up most of that $2.2 million. In total, it's about $11.5 million in child nutrition for this year. For 13-14 in expenditures, you'll see that the majority most of the money is again in salaries. I'm sorry, it's not in salaries. It's in the food costs. It's in the 6,300 category. It's at $7.3 million. We always want to say salaries right away because you think that's where the most expense goes in the programs, but this one's unique in that that's not where the most of the cost is at. And you'll see the total expense is $14.3 million. A minute ago, I told you, I'm going to back up just a minute to the previous slide, where the revenue shows 11.5. Here we're showing 14.3. Of course, this is that fund, just to remind you, that has too much fund balance in it, so they're trying to spend that down with the plan they submitted to the Texas Department of Agriculture, because typically you wouldn't see a big, increase in expenditures like that for this particular fund. So side by side, revenues and expenditures, you'll see again 11.5, 14.4. We're hoping the fund balance gets at about $3.2 million. So it'll be about $22.5 million, and that'll be almost at the 3 months level. We'll need to spend just a little bit more, but not by much anymore. Interest and sinking fund is the fund where we pay for all of our bonds that we've issued, all the principal and interest payments. For 13-14, you'll see that most of the money that comes into this fund is that local funds at $24 million, and the state kicks in about $4.8 million. That other column says other resources. That's an accounting thing that we do, but every time we refund bonds, we have to do an entry that shows revenue coming in and expense going out. So you're going to see in a minute on the other side, you'll see that a number very similar to that on the expense side. So that $42.3 million is really it's kind of a little misleading if you're just thinking about what are our debt service payments. Our debt service payments are not that much, and you'll see here in the next slide. Our debt service payments, what you see in that 6,500, that first category, that $29 million, that's what we pay in principal interest a year. And you'll see, it's kind of steady throughout the years there pretty much. We try to keep it level because we don't want that tax rate to be fluctuating all over the place, and so we try to keep it about the same. And that other uses, that's that $13.2 million. A minute ago, that's what we showed you kind of on the other resources. It's about the same number. side by side, it's right here. You'll see the revenue is 42.3, expenses 42.2. It's almost right there. The fund balance is $16.5 million, which because our fiscal year ends on June 30th, we have a payment for our bonds that is on August the 1st. So that $16.5 million seems like it's high, but that payment that we have is about $9 million that we pay on August the 1st. So that brings the fund balance back down to about a $5 or $6 million level, which is, our rating agencies really like to see that. You have that kind of reserve set up in that fund in case something goes wrong, so you can make sure you pay your debt service payments. Anybody have any questions on this part of it?
Just the food service, back to child nutrition.
Mhm.
So even though we are providing free breakfast to all of our students, we're still able to maintain a healthy fund balance. And I think that's outstanding, because I had some parents in other school districts comment and said, no, we give all of our kids free breakfast. We could just get all of our parents to bring them to breakfast.
That's true. Very, very true. And that's kind of the plan, is that they're trying to make sure that we do spend that fund balance down, but that we maintain sufficient funds in there to make sure that we can continue that program for as long as possible.
Thank you.
That's it on the PowerPoint. From here, we're going to jump into board book and go through the pages in there. Okay, so we're on page 25 is where we're at in board book now.
Yep.
And this particular page just kind of shows you, again, the payroll costs in more detail, just showing you by categories how much we spend on substitutes, how much we spend on career ladder, all those kind of things. And so if you have any questions, I'm not really going to go into this in a lot of detail other than just to say that the majority of the money in this particular category, the whole category of salaries, again, for this year is about $136.6 million. The majority of that cost for this year, about $90 million, let me make sure I'm not telling you the wrong number here, about $90 million, $89.2 million, is spent on salaries for professional staff, the majority of those being teachers, of course. Then about $21.3 million are spent on wages for all of our auxiliary staff, all of our hourly people, if you will. And then the other largest amount that's in there is for health insurance. We spend about $7.4 million on health insurance, contributing for our employees' premiums, towards their premiums.
So on that page, Mr. Alabama, what is the, why do you think our overtime costs are increasing?
I think that we have a lot of different programs that a lot of when the bus drivers are out doing field trips with the kiddos, taking them on different events, for our athletic events, for all those kind of things, they start incurring overtime. Our largest areas, there are three real areas that we have our largest overtime. Transportation, the police department, and our maintenance department are the three areas where we have the most overtime. And that kind of varies from year to year depending on what functions are happening, especially for the transportation and police department, what things are going to have to be assisting. And we kind of broke it out a little bit. You'll see that there's a second line that says overtime as well, but that's for the Adventure Club. So that particular line you see there, that is being paid by tuition that is being charged for that program. So that just kind of so that you know that's not, that program's paying for itself.
Jose, on the 6117 career letter, it's getting smaller and smaller because as people retire or something that were in the career letter, then that's why it gets smaller. Eventually, hopefully, it'll be zero.
Yes, sir. I don't know if I see it in my lifetime.
I know.
That's what, yes, it should.
Okay, okay, good.
Any other questions on this particular page?
Substitute auxiliaries.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about substitute
Sure.
auxiliaries.
We
Oh,
kind of-
never mind, I got it. The secretaries.
Yes, we kind of broke it down.
Yes,
It's
very
a
good.
little bit of secretaries, but
Yes.
a lot of it is more the aides in the classrooms.
Yes.
Right, those kind of folks.
Oh, okay.
Where we have a lot more
Okay,
stuff.
no
We
problem.
kind of broke it down a little bit to kind of determine what was professional.
Okay.
So why do you think our substitute teachers is high? Is it because we're using certified teachers and paying them more? Is it because we're using more, how much the dollar figure? Are we using more certified retiree teachers for subs now than we have in the past? Or about the same? About the same. So even though we talk every year about our teacher subs, and it's kind of in Mr. Salyer's bailiwick, our numbers are still going up, so we haven't found a solution.
No, and actually, and if you look at the TASB library, you'll see that they have a book that they sell, about trying to manage our substitute costs because it's a problem across the entire state, it's not just at our school district. Because, people have days they're gonna use them usually, for whatever reason, whether they're
Trying to
ill.
manage your substitute costs. That sounds interesting.
Since we don't pay,
Absences, I think it's entitled absences and substitutes, something like that.
okay, on item 6141, Social Security, Medicare, since we don't pay Social Security, I noticed that we pay 1.7 million.
Right.
What,
And the
is that all for
majority-
Medicare?
The majority of that are substitutes. So all the subs that work for us, we have to pay Social Security for them. They're not eligible to be members of the TRS system, so we have to pay them just like a regular employee.
Oh,
Employee
the
has to love it.
substitutes, okay,
Right.
okay,
So
okay.
that's the majority of it.
Yes, sir, okay.
I was just wondering about the workers' comp line this year is, 840,000, and the last couple of years it shows nothing or.
Sure.
Or maybe.
Sure. Well, what the deal is that, remember, we suspended contributions to the workers' comp program over several years, and that's what this is. This is showing you the cost that the district has been contributing towards workers' comp. So in the past few years, we've contributed nothing because that fund balance had grown so large, and that we felt like, no, we can stop, especially when we hit those where the state was cutting our funding, and we're trying to think, well, how can we fund all these things that we need? And we looked at that program and said, we actually have enough reserves in here to stop contributions for a little while, and still make it viable. So now, this year, we came back and told the board, okay, we're going to go ahead and start workers' comp again. We put a budget amount in our budget when we adopted it to start that program. That's why you're seeing that 841,000
Oh.
starting back into there again. We used to contribute about $1.6 million per year, and because it was building so much, we looked at what our average was for a trend of 5 years expenditures, and we said, okay, this is a target number that we need to look at. So we're just kind of maintaining that balance, so it's not growing or declining. So we'll continue to monitor that and let y'all know if we need to increase a little bit or decrease or whatever.
Can we get, something on that that's, actual cost on the same kind of format that you have there? You know how you have fiscal year 13, 14, 15,
Sure, like,
and then give us some real costs
Sure.
instead of just what we're putting into it. How much do we actually spend on?
Out of that budget?
like a 5-year trend or something?
Yes, sir.
Sure, and it's in our audit report on a year-by-year alone, but we can definitely do a 5-year to show you.
Just because when we look at that, that's not
Okay.
really what's going on. That's
Sure.
Well, that's why she asked that, how come it was high,
Yeah,
but
that's just what.
I thought the same thing, but then when he said it's a reserve that we have there or something.
I didn't realize how many years we hadn't been contributing, because I remember that now you say that, but so when was the last time?
It was 3 years. 3 years that we stopped contributions, but that doesn't mean we were stopping coverage for our employees, right? So
No,
they were
right.
still filing
It was the
claims,
fund
and we were
balance
still-
you
right,
had.
and we were still paying for all
Just
that.
in our book, it goes back to 09, 10, and it shows 11, but I'm not sure if that's.
Yeah, I think it was,
We show more than 3 years of none.
Right, that's what I'm saying, we should more
it's
than.
4
well,
years, right? 1, 2, 3,
Four
4.
full
Yeah,
years
four.
on our books of
Right.
not contributing, so I didn't know, did we contribute the year before that, since it was 4 years in that?
Then we stopped, and we started again. Yeah. You bet. I'll verify it to make sure, but I appreciate that's right. And also that information is there, I think, Ms. Howard, you're getting some of that, didn't you?
Correct.
At program review?
It's actual expenditures for that program.
Oh, in your program review part? Okay, I still have that book.
But we'll look
But
for
it doesn't show 5 years, it just shows this year.
This current year.
Yeah,
Well, we'll
I'd
look
like to
5
see
years.
what
Everyone-
we've
we'll
done
get-
over the time.
Sure, we'll get it to you.
Well, we can ask them.
Okay, but one other question,
Sure.
sorry. The final line, the employee benefits, why such a huge drop from last year, 200?
Sure. That one is because that's based on what we've done so far this year. That one's a little tricky to kind of predict, because what that is when employees leave, any of the unused sick leave that they have, when they're retiring from the district, if they've been here for 10 consecutive
Locals.
years. If they're retiring, it's both local and state. As long as they have to been here for 10 consecutive years, or 10 years, not necessarily consecutive, but 10 years, then we'll pay them so much per day, so because that means they didn't use it, so we save the substitute cost in doing that. So we'd rather pay the employee. So that number varies every year on who retires and if they've been here for 10 years and how many days they have accumulated.
The only other thing that we notice a difference in unemployment compensation.
Unemployment compensation was always we go through TASB for this coverage. We're one of their members for that. and it was always very inexpensive for us. And when the state stopped funding the school districts and everybody started laying people off, then they told us at that time, because of that, you're going to have a lot more unemployment claims being filed. So your fees are going to go up because it's a pool. So it's not just Judson, it's everybody who belongs in that pool. So we saw it go up, and then we saw it go back down, if I remember correctly. This year, I think it went back down a little bit. And so I think as
It went
everybody...
down substantially because we went from 164 to 144 to 100.
Right.
So my question is, so it's not because we're denying unemployment that employees are...
No, we can't. No, once
We
they're
can't.
eligible, no.
You know.
I mean, only if...
You can do anything.
Right. There's only a few things that we can do to say, it depends if they did something that caused them to be unemployed. But typically, if we're letting them go because of, program changes or somebody claims, the school district somewhere else files for financial exigency and they can't afford to have these folks, when they just release them for those reasons, then they're going to file unemployment. There's nothing that the employer can do to stop them.
Or if we allow them to resign in lieu of termination.
That still doesn't stop them from applying. Anybody can
But
apply.
my question is to be more specific, when they apply for employment and we have allowed them to resign in lieu of termination, what do we put on the unemployment request? Do we deny it, or do
No,
we?
the unemployment request does not ask the conditions or circumstance of the exit. It only asks if they're still working, terminated, laid off, and so you can only check one box. It doesn't indicate, when it's used terminated, it doesn't indicate that's, all exits out of the district are
Whether they're
considered-
resignation
right,
or
right.
termination.
So that's not delineated.
Okay.
However, when we do have a situation where an employee is leaving the district either unfavorably or chooses to resign in lieu of termination, we send a copy of their termination, of the exit form, with the unemployment claim back to the state. So that's what goes off to the Workforce Commission, and then it's up to the Workforce Commission.
They
to
don't
determine.
contact the district?
Yes, we are often contacted, yeah.
And what is our response?
Well, our response is in accordance with the condition of the exit.
Which
So,
is what?
well, it will depend.
Depends on the-
If they, I'm asking for the specific instance, and I have a reason for asking.
Mhm.
If they are allowed to resign in lieu of termination, we have said, Mr.
Right.
Smith, we're going to fire you, but we're going to be nice and we'll let you resign. He goes and files an unemployment claim.
Mhm.
They are going to call the district. What will we say?
The hearing officer will ask directly, why did the employee resign?
Mhm.
And if the employee indicates on the form as resigned in lieu of termination and/or other,
Okay.
the second question is always going to be, would the employee have been terminated if they did not resign? And so I have to truthfully answer yes or no to that question.
And then that will allow the employee to receive unemployment compensation.
That decision is entirely up to the Workforce Commission. I
That's what
don't-
the Workforce Commission told me at a briefing I went to.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking, what are we saying? Because what they were saying is school districts are telling their employees that they're not entitled to unemployment when they resign. But if they resign in lieu of termination, it's as if we terminated them anyway, and we still have to pay. So that's why I'm asking the question, because, I mean, we went down, I'm proud of you for saving us money, but we went down from 164 to 144, and now we're down 100. And I know we've had a lot of resignations, and so I'm just trying to figure out why our numbers are down based on the amount of resignations that we've had this year.
Well, definitely, we're managing the program much better. So
Okay.
I actually personally manage this particular program myself. So I handle all unemployment claims and processing. If any of them go to hearing, I am the hearing representative for the district. So part of it is just managing it and providing the Texas Workforce Commission the information they request.
It also went up a lot before it went down.
Mhm.
If you look back, I mean, it was at 69.6 before it took a big jump up. So we're actually still over what it had been before. It's come down. It's
Well,
not
Well,
like
this
it's
is the
just-
year that we did the.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the year that we
We did
conducted
the RIF.
reductions.
Right, yeah. so
And
that makes sense.
as a matter
Yeah.
of record,
Right.
the state did, Texas Workforce Commission did grant anybody who was reduced in that cut
Mhm.
across the state unemployment benefits. So now we're back to just managing those folks that, either exit voluntarily or involuntarily from the district.
Okay. Gave you a break.
But this is the fee we pay the,
Okay.
okay.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
Jose.
All right, I'm going to move on to the next page.
Yes, 26.
Yep, 26 just shows you, for those 5 years again, our payroll expenses as a percent of total expenses. And again, you can add a couple of columns there, again, because everybody asks me all the time, what percentage of our payroll makes up our budget? And so if you look at salaries and wages, like for this year, 69%. And when you add benefits to that, it's another 6%. And so you see it starts adding up really quick. TRS is another 2%, and then we get up that we're up to that 77, 78% that we talked about a little while ago. There's another, so if you look at the column that says total payroll, it says 81%. There's a column there always that's TRS on behalf, and just to remind you all what that is, we don't pay Social Security for all of our regular employees, just substitutes. So the state pays the matching portion of the TRS, and we're required to record it on our books. So although some people can look at it as a payroll expense, some people don't look at it as a payroll expense. So we always kind of separate that out so you can see how much of that is. So you can see that our true payroll expense is 78%, and then you add 77%, then you add the 4% for the TRS on behalf to get that number.
And why would you think it's not a payroll expense?
It's not really coming out of our coffers. It's the state.
I
It's just
see.
making us record it in our.
Right, you have
Because
to.
we show a revenue and an expense that exactly
This is
offset
your,
each other.
gotcha.
Yep. I'm going to go to the next page, if that's all right. Okay, these three next three financial statements should be very familiar to you. These are the ones that are in your board book every month. And there's one for each fund, the general fund, challenge fund, and interest and sinking. And it just shows you the revenues that we budgeted, where we're at this point in time, for the month that we're showing, and the expenses. So I'm not going to go over them. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them. And then we're going to go on to the next section.
Yep.
So the next section is item 3 on the agenda. And it is actually already starting to look at the information for fiscal year 14-15. And the first sheet you'll see there is a budget summary. We have a budget summary again for each one of the 3 funds.
What page is that? Oh,
30.
Yep.
yes, I see it.
And this particular one that we're looking at is the budget summary for the general operating fund. And it kind of shows you a little bit there at the very top what our taxable value is that we're estimating this budget on. So at the very top, it'll show there on the top right-hand corner, it shows that the estimated taxable value is $6.6 billion. That's with the letter B. And so that is about $300 million more than what we budgeted for last year. So that 8% we were talking about earlier from the county, this appraisal reflects that. And we always look at a collection rate of 98% from our taxes. The tax office always does better than that, but we budget at 98% just to make sure that we come out okay with our revenue forecast.
So even though we're using those figures, though, they have until, what the day was the deadline? No, when's the deadline? Is it June
No,
1st?
they have a little more time to file for a hearing.
The month of May.
Mhm.
Hearings
So-
in May.
Here's in May?
And now they're doing even electronic ones too. They're doing them online if you want. You don't
I
have to even
saw
show up
that.
there. Yeah, so it's a little, that's something new this year. But
So when will they be through with those, and then you'll have a,
they're
better idea?
supposed to give us our number early June.
so before we vote on the final,
Mhm.
you have a?
Almost definitely, yes.
Okay.
We definitely will. And that doesn't stop them. Now, I want to just real clear about that. They'll have some big accounts usually, like the commercial accounts, that'll file, and then those go into litigation sometimes, and they'll drag on for
Like our
years.
favorite people?
Right, yes. And so
Yeah.
those, sometimes, like right now, we're paying litigation from 2012. That people filed in 2012, that they're just now agreeing on values, and sometimes the values are lowered, so we're having to give money back. That, we thought we were going to collect in 2012, but we did collect in 2012, but we're giving it back now.
I'm not gonna file for a hearing, because I'm getting ready to sell my house, so I'm gonna leave it as high as they wanna make it.
People do that. And so the ADA that we're forecasting for this particular budget is 21,250 kids. Again, that's not enrollment, that's ADA. And I base this on 94.6% attendance, which we always have a little better attendance than that. But again, it's just a way to make sure that we,
Conservative guy.
yep. That's why at the end of the year, typically we'll see, a little bit in fund balance because of that. So if you look at, again, I'm just going to start highlighting some of the larger numbers. Now, I want to be real clear from the very get-go before we start. And if you all saw the bottom line already, you probably already had a heart attack. But these are the first blush, okay? This is the first run at this. We're going to have a lot more meetings with all of our departments still and directors and everybody does. That's right, to sharpen the pencils, whittle the numbers down to where it's something that we can really afford. Because these are just, a lot of these are just things that we would like to have, but they're not going to happen. On the revenue side, though, these are pretty accurate. We're showing that we're going to have, as I had mentioned earlier, in the local taxes, we're going to see about a $4.3 million increase in local tax revenue from 13-14 to 14-15. And again, that's based not on the tax rate increase, because the tax rate is going to be the same, $1.04. We're not asking for an increase there. And we can't anyway. If we wanted to increase it, we'd have to go to the taxpayers to ask them to increase it. So that's only based on increased value in the district. That's that $4 million distributed to that. On the state side, if you go down, there's a bunch of state numbers there for different categories. But if you go down to the very bottom of the state, it'll show you that the state's increasing by $4.4 million as well. There is one line item in here that I want to bring to your attention. That it says, if you go from that total where it says $4.4 million, right above it, maybe two numbers above it, you'll see a number that says $1.4 million. And it's labeled as TRS, Employer Contribution Assistance. All right, this is a way that the state is trying to help the TRS system, bail them out of some issues that they're having. And so what they're doing for this 14-15 year is that they're giving us the money, this $1.4 million, and they're also making us send it to the state. So they're just, again, they're passing it through us. Okay? And that's a one-year thing. After this year's over, they said the following year, it's on us. They're not going to give us the money to pay for it. We're going to have to pick up that $1.4 million. Now, before that happens, there'll be another legislative session. So we're going to hope that they change this somehow. But for now, just know that they're giving us the revenue, but they're also going to tell us that we're going to spend it. We're going to send it over to TRS. So I'm not sure exactly why they're running it through us, but that's what they're doing.
Move page 30, Gilbert.
That's it. Yes, thank you.
So now I'm going to go on to page 31. That's okay. So total increase for revenue, when you add those two numbers, really, we're looking at about $8.7 million increase in revenue from one year to the next. And this is where it starts getting bad. On the expenditure side, for the same fund, if you look at the numbers there, the increase, and I'm going to look at the subtotal salaries and benefits, you'll see that there's a $9.6 million increase there in costs for payroll costs. Now, you'll see that $1.4 million is in there that we talked about a minute ago, because, like I told you, we're going to just pass it on, so we have to show it in the revenue, show it in the expense. But you'll see that the very first line there, the salaries and benefits, at $8.7 million compared to the prior year. What happens is that I have to take the prior year original salary amount and add all the raises that were given the prior year and any new staffing. So that's why you see that 120 to go to the 129, because of the raises and everything else that we've done, come out to that $8.7 million throughout the year. Then right beneath that, you'll see $1 million there being budgeted, and that's kind of initial. That was the plan for Copperfield, for the additional staffing that was going to be required for Copperfield, and for the JSTEM program.
And where's that, sir?
It's the $1 million right beneath where it says new staff and upgrade solutions, and it has $1 million.
Oh, I
in
see.
there.
Okay.
That number, we're going to go work to that number still. It may have to be a little bit higher than that, but that's what I put in there initially to kind of do some planning. And then right beneath that, you see $4.1 million. That's the salary increase that the board approved at the board meeting for next school year. That's what it equals, $4.1 million. And the documentation for that is in this board book as well, a little bit further on. And the TRS, I talked about that, TRS contribution. The workers' comp, this past year we had budgeted $750,000. But as you all saw a little while ago, probably if you recall, the number was like $840,000. So I put $850 for next year. So it's about $100,000 increase for that workers' comp. We'll reevaluate that, like I said, at the end of the year and see how the expenditures are going, and we'll see whether we need that or not. Then on the operating costs, as you go further down, these are all the requests from the campuses and departments. And really, it's not campuses, it's just the departments, because the campuses we give an allocation to, so it is an increase, but it's not a wish list from them. We tell them how much they're going to get based on students, and we'll cover that in a moment. But it's $4.3 million is what the requests are at this time. That's the number that you will see decrease as we work through the budget process. So right now, if you look at our revenues versus our expenditures, you see that we have expenditures that are that are in excess of revenues by $5.1 million. Okay, now when we asked the board to allow us to do the salary increase, in there it was worded that so that we were expecting that we were going to go into fund balance because we had grown fund balance enough to where we felt comfortable doing that. Not, of course, to that number. We were kind of thinking more in the $2.5 to $3 million range would be something that would be more plausible. We've done that before in the past. Some of the board members have been here have known that we've adopted budgets that were deficits of about $2.9 million in the past. And we even had somebody from TA one time come in and present because some folks didn't believe that that was okay to do that. So they came and talked to us about how many districts really adopt deficit budgets and said, yes, it's fairly common to do that. And of course, you all know, I don't want to promise anything or mislead you, but you all know that we adopted a deficit budget, but our goal is, as we're working towards the end of the year, that we try to still end up positive, at least break even. But I always want you to expect whatever we adopt, so that if we say we're going to adopt a $2.5 million deficit, that's what you expect. And later, hopefully, we can come back and say, well, we only went into it $500,000 or something, or maybe we made $100,000.
So this is even with the increase that we've added?
Yes.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and so the salary increase was $4.1 million. And the request from the departments is also $4.3 million, so that's where we have to work on a little bit. A lot. So with that in mind, what would happen is that if we were to adopt this with a $5 million deficit, which we're not going to do, that would leave our fund balance at $29.7 million at the end of next year. We can't do that because the board said we can only be at 17% of the expenditures. So the floor is $29.9 million. That number that's in a box right there, based on that budget. So we would still have to at least adjust it for $200,000 if we had to stay within what the board asked us to do. But like I said, this is the first blush. We're going to go back and work on this a lot. And that number also is already reducing that $3 million that the board asked us to put aside for the land. If it wasn't for that, that number would be higher by $3 million, but we did that. So
No, but we can always take that money back. It's not like.
we can, yeah, the board can, absolutely, the board can. But, it just makes us be a little bit more, make sure with the budget that we're being conservative with the budget planning. All right, I'm going to go on to the next page. The next page is the same information for the Child Nutrition Fund. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but we're looking at a total revenue increase there of about $975,000. Most of that is all federal dollars for the reimbursement programs that we get from the lunches. And our expenditures, we're looking at decreasing our expenditures by $257,000. And that's, again, because this year we were trying to spend that fund balance down. So in doing that, we're going to show our fund balance decreasing a little bit from what we're thinking will be $3.2 million this year to about $3 million, $3.1 million next year. So again, we're working on keeping that around that level to meet what the state requires that we do, what the federal requires.
That includes our increase in lunch.
That includes, yes, those numbers include the 10-cent price increase. If for some reason there was a waiver that was given, and we kind of talked about that. We don't know if we really want to do that because we're so far below all the other districts. But if it happens, Mr. Kirsch, I'm sure, will present something to Dr. Mackey, and then we'll kind of decide how we want to proceed with that. I'm going to go on to the next page.
33.
Interest and sinking. Yes, this is again the fund that pays for the bonds, the principal and interest. We're only allowed to raise taxes enough to pay for our bond payments in here. We can't just continue to raise higher and higher taxes to save in the kitty. So on occasion we save a little bit more money because we do a refunding that year, and so we save a little bit of money that we were to pay that year that we kind of hold back a little bit. But you'll see that our revenues for this next year, we're anticipating collecting $29.4 million total. The largest amount, $1.2 million of an increase, is going to be, again, because our values went up. Our tax rate's staying the same. We're not raising our tax rate, but the values are going up. So we're going to collect about $1.2 million. Again, when we sold this last bond issue, we were anticipating, we did all the forecast, and actually at that time we were only looking at a 2%, 3% property value increase, so we're doing a lot better than that. So what that equates to is that we're having to be able to pay those monies and a little bit later maybe do another bond issue without having to raise the tax rate again, for a smaller issue for a short time before we have to go to the voters and ask for a large issue and asking for a tax rate increase. But we'll see how that works out.
What's our outstanding bond balance? I know it's 2006. I know.
I don't want to guess at that number.
You said
I will definitely get it to you.
because I know it's different, it's stacked. I mean, we still got bonds out 20 years ago.
No, it's not in the PowerPoint. It's let me get that to you. I want to say it's between 370 million and 400 million, somewhere right there in that range. But that's kind of a large range. So I'll get you the right exact number. And that's just the principal amount that's outstanding.
Outstanding balance.
Yeah.
On these bonds. But you still got some 20 years ago.
We have not bond series that were issued 20 years ago. The most, I think the oldest series that we have right now was from 2002, I think. was the oldest series that we're paying for right now, because we've been refunding the old ones and things as we go on. So, right. So we do have the largest debt payment. I mean, the furthest out, I think we're out to 2024, 2029 is when our debt service schedule goes out to that far. Right. Sure. We definitely will.
On the appraisals that we get, now, they're going out now and people are challenging them.
Yes, sir.
You know, so when will we know that?
Sure. We will get, we've already gotten preliminary numbers, right, but they're still challenging them, as you said. So we'll have something at the very first week of June. The appraisal will give us a number and say, this is what number you can go with. We planned on what we feel, they gave us a number, we backed off some amounts saying this is what we think we're going to really fall at, so we can be conservative about where we budget. But we'll know the first week of June. Before we advertise our budget, then we'll know by that.
Okay.
And you know, right now, Mr. Sawyer, I told you, it's still 20 years, so it's not 24, 29, it's 39, 34, 39 is the debt payment schedule. Yeah. I was thinking, no, that's real quick. Yep, exactly. Okay, again, so this particular debt payment for next year for this fund is about $30.2 million. So we should end up with a fund balance of about $15.2 million. Again, that's has an August payment in there we have to adjust for, so which is about $9 million coming out of there. So again, we're going to end up with about a $5 to $6 million fund balance when it's a true fund balance. I'm going to go on to the next section. The next section, I'm going to not discuss too much right now. We'll be happy to address any questions you have, but the next section is talking about the compensation plan. So what's in here, we included the compensation plan for next school year, the draft as it stands right now. It includes all the salary increases and adjustments that the board voted on and approved in February. I think it was in February. So you're welcome to look at it, and of course, if you have any questions, please let us know, or the next meeting when we talk about it, just let us know any questions that you have about that. Is that okay, or do you all have any questions at this time? And in here, in this section as well, are the documents that we gave the board when we approved the salary increases, all the detail about who got what increases, the action sheet that was presented and adjusted at the board meeting, the scales are in here. There's a scale that shows you on page number, let's get to it real quick here, that shows you our teacher scale. It's on page number 65. It's some data that Ms. Howard collected that shows our school districts, what we pay for our bachelor's and master's degree in our district versus Harlandale, Edgewood, San Antonio, Northside, Northeast, Judson. And then at the very end, it also shows Judson for 14-15, what we've adopted for next school year. To kind of give you an idea where we fall. And just keep in mind, though, when one of these districts, when you look at San Antonio ISDs, that they pay both Social Security and TRS, so their take-home pay is 6.4% less than what ours are when you take it to that, because they're paying Social Security, which our teachers don't have to do. They're not.
That's San Antonio ISD.
That's San Antonio
That's
ISD.
the only one left?
The only school district.
I mean, the only one that collects Social Security.
Right,
Okay.
they're not military schools. They're
Right.
private schools, yes.
I also wanted to point out that Shirt Cibolo, they do not fully fund their employees' health insurance benefits. So though you might see, and we had a lot of folks want to jump the fence back this year, that their starting salary is quite a bit higher, the majority of that goes straight back towards their benefits. They have to pay out of pocket. So.
Even for just themselves without the family.
Yes. Yes. Actually, Judson is one of the last districts in Bexar County to still offer 100%.
For the employee.
For the employee.
Okay.
Where the employee pays zero for their costs. I'm going to continue on. Is that okay?
Yes.
Again, as y'all review this later, have questions, please let us know. After that, it's just a sheet that, again, was presented to the board on the increases and all the data that came with that. I'm going to jump forward now to the last section on here, which are the campus allocations. Let me.
Okay.
Yeah.
106.
Right. Just go to it real quick here. All right. And what this page shows you are of course, each one of our campuses. It shows you the enrollment that we're projecting for next school year, and how much we're giving them per student, and then the total basic allocation that they're receiving. So the campuses have to take this money, work with their site-based committees, and decide where to place these funds on their campus to ensure that they're addressing all their programs, both the ones, hopefully putting a little more money in the programs that they're struggling with, and less on the ones that are not, but make sure that they equitably fund each one of their programs. I know that they have the opportunity to come visit with me if they have any concerns or need more funding for some reason or another. And so that's kind of the way we're doing that. Yes, sir. And we're also, for the ones that have asterisks, the elementary schools, I guess maybe 3 years ago, 4 years, 2 years ago, we started holding back $3 per student that because the music program was it wasn't really being managed. Right, it wasn't equitable across the district. Some principals would give more to the program, some wouldn't give anything. So Ms. Robinson's department took that over, and now I guess it's Mr. Whitty's going to do it.
Yeah, they get the money back, but
Right.
they have to submit a plan, and that way we can make sure everybody has a plan and it's equitable.
It doesn't add up to a lot of money, but it's still $35,000 that we can make sure that it's being spent on music and elementary programs.
I thought that was a great idea when we did that.
It's made a big difference.
My only concern on this page is that we're still giving more money to early college.
That was my question. Thank you, Nina. Go ahead.
The reason we're doing that, and we can change that, but the reason we're doing it is because they're such a smaller school as far as numbers. They don't have as many kids as like the other high schools do. And so the programs are still expensive. A lot of the things they buy are still expensive. So we fund it at a higher level just to make sure, because they only have 500, 600 kids, 467 down here for next year, that we want to make sure they have enough resources to fund that program.
The only thing that we can look at in early college and to reduce that is they would have to start paying for some certain things. Right now, we're paying for everything for them.
The
And,
fees I thought
fees.
it was for the fees for the
Yeah.
kids.
Fees, books,
Books.
and all kind of things that we're paying for that, we're probably gonna have to start putting back on the kids and the families.
I don't think so. That's what we sold that bond on.
Yeah.
The fact that we are,
I agree.
that. Now, there's a thing like that $25,
Yeah.
that's
That's new.
that's different.
But that, I don't think that's paid out of here, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
But
But I agree that we said that we were gonna do that, but, there's also, there are a lot of people that would like their children to be at a smaller campus, like Early College. And, the complaints that I'm hearing is, okay, we only have 500, but yet they're paying, it's their money, those kids are getting a college diploma, and we're taking more money to fund that. Is there any way that we can fund items like their books from some other accounting method other than the 145? I mean, what is the 145?
Legally, we could take it out of IMA, but it's gonna take every penny of our IMA to buy science and math textbooks.
At the college? Oh, you mean for us?
Period, yes. So there's, I told you it's that unusual adoption year.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna give us more funding. One of our neighboring districts is gonna have to use fund balance, they don't have enough in IMA to buy all their textbooks.
And truthfully, the bottom line is this. It goes back to what Dr. Mackey said a minute ago. If our intention is to fund everything at that school, then it doesn't really matter where we put the money. If it's in their campus or if we put it in some other account somewhere else, it's still going to come out of our revenues.
It just doesn't look the same.
Right. I get that. I understand. But the only way to change that is to say, well, we're not going to pay for X, Y, Z. Then we can definitely say, okay, we're going to have these things. But if we're going to fund them,
What is the difference come to?
it's about it's under $10,000 because it's $25 more per student there than at the regular high school, times 467 if it was so we're talking around it's going to be right under around $10,000.
What's going to happen in the future?
With-
As the college costs increase, are we going to continue to raise the per student ratio to fund early college?
That's gonna be up to
And
the board.
take away from our other
the board-
colleges
that's
and
the board
our
decision.
students? Well, we just need to think about that now.
That's right, that's the
Because
board.
that's what's getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
The costs are going to increase, they're not going to go down.
Sure.
And so that is a program that we started, and at what point are we going to say, whether it's fundraising, whether it's getting the Education Foundation to come in and assist with some of those costs, because we give scholarships, so perhaps the foundation could look at some scholarships to our early college kids to help them to be able to go there. But just something to think about. We're going to need to start thinking about that because it will become inequitable in a few years. I won't be here, so I won't have to make that decision, but just to think about.
Okay, all right. On the next page. Okay, so starting on page 107.
Money on mine, put it better.
Starting on page 107, we have, this is kind of the same information we're looking at a minute ago for all the campuses. Right. And then right after that, on page 108, start all the different departments. Again, we can sit here if you like and go over some of these tonight and ask questions, but these are not by any means the final numbers for these departments because I showed you a minute ago that, how much they requested. And so everybody's having to go back and re-look at what they submitted to come back with more realistic numbers because there's no way we can afford what was submitted.
I cut today.
But what happened is, this is a want list. Pre-cabinet's gonna go back over this here in the next week or two, and then they're gonna present it to me, and then I will cut some more. They'll cut some, and then I'll make some cuts. So we'll be working down, so the wants will be going down to the needs.
The only thing that,
But I just want to present y'all what they want from the very beginning, then we'll start cutting.
What kind of timeline are we looking at for, here we are, May 1. And this thing is due in 2 months. So,
yeah, by the next time, I think we're scheduled to meet on May the 29th, the next time. By that time, we should have the numbers
We're
all
not going to
hammered
meet
out.
again until May the 29th?
No.
On the budget?
That's what the calendar, we can do whatever y'all like, but that's what the
No.
calendar
That's
said.
terrible. I'm sorry.
No, we're going to.
You're going
hopefully
to
have
schedule a
some
meeting
other
between
dates.
it? Okay.
Go ahead.
I would really like to see us get something in 2 weeks
2
to
weeks is
see.
what I'm thinking.
I mean, just
We can take care of it. We'll take care of it.
just to get it to us. We
Give
don't
us a
have to
date.
meet on it
Okay.
so that we can start looking
Give us
at
a
it
date,
and
and we'll
then-
take care of it.
Yeah.
So the
I
meeting,
think that
so
would
that
be-
board meeting night, maybe board
Here's
meeting
what
night or
he
something.
said. Okay. Getting the information.
What's that?
We could do 1 hour for budget.
Get us the info.
Yeah, we can get on to the, on the
The
14th.
info, and then we go,
We can get-
then we set the special meeting.
Yeah, we get to you on 14th.
We could have a 1 hour meeting before the board meeting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, that's something we'll discuss.
I
But,
like your idea of getting.
Huh?
okay.
That makes the meeting way too long.
Yeah, we got
Oh,
the,
on the board
Sir,
meeting night?
Yes.
Sir,
Okay.
we're touring copper.
yeah, we just got to walk. Yeah, I think,
She just told
yeah,
me.
we're gonna have y'all have the Copperfield walkthrough before the board meeting.
I have several questions. Does anybody have any?
Well, I was
He
gonna-
wasn't
I'm on
doing
page,
it.
I'm on page 107, sir.
I was just going to mention something real quick. Sure. Well, that's actually before page I was going to talk about. So if you want to add, well, I was going to say is this. When you look at the board's budget and you see the difference there's 2 items that are in there that I just wanted to make sure y'all, that, we let y'all know we're in there. We budgeted for the election
Right.
for, that's coming up in May of
Right.
2015. And I think that was $90,000 that we budgeted for that election. And we also added a budget item that the miscellaneous requested for a superintendent search. We don't know
Right.
exactly what that's going to cost, but we added $25,000 for now to start until we get some kind of pricing as to what that's
What
going
did
to
we
be.
spend last time?
Oh,
He knows.
I'm trying to think. That was a long time ago, 7
Okay,
years
we'll
ago at
find it.
least. But it was like, I think it
then
wasn't
add the
very
cost of living.
expensive. I think it was like $12,000 or $16,000 that particular time.
Okay.
But,
12, 16, okay, well, 25 should be fine.
Mr. Selly,
Mr. Kirschner, on 935, police department increase of 20,000. What level of officers is that?
what, where are you, sir?
Police department, basically.
On
What page?
page number.
Yeah, these are not personnel requests. This is not personnel requests. This is
This is budget, this is operational fund. Fuel,
Vehicles.
vehicles, things like that, okay. That's helpful.
Be sure to tell me what's on this.
Ammunition
I'm-
and fuel.
I have several questions on page 107, if everybody can,
We're there.
okay. And it's, yes, just for example, on the PAC, Performing Arts, it looks like we're going up by
Page
$12,000.
What they're doing there, the gentleman who took over the PAC has kind of done a review of the entire facility as far as all their technical equipment they have, the
Yes.
lighting, and they have some issues with some of the boards that they're using. And so he originally came in with his request to Mr. Kirshner, and we're like, there's no way that's going to happen. So you need to start phasing it. So Mr. Kirshner talked to him, and he submitted what he considers to be first phase of replacing some of the most important equipment in there, and that's what that $12,000 represents.
Okay,
Let's plan.
let's go to the evening high school, 030, 15,000 less. What's happening to our evening high school?
107.
107.
It says 030, the code, evening high school, it says that we're gonna we need less, $15,000 less.
They're not, this is only for their supplies and materials items.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they're not spending all the money that's in there now, so we've
Okay,
brought it back to more. of a
that's
number.
all I needed to know, sir. I noticed
That's military.
all the middle schools, Kirby, Kitty Hawk, Woodlake Hill, Metzger, Judson, and the STEM, besides the STEM, they all went down.
Yes, sir. Well, what's happening there, there's two things. It's the net effect of something. We're having more students come in, some of them, but we're also taking students away to send to the STEM program. We're taking 25 kids away from every school. So when you do that, you're reducing the number of students there, so it's going to reduce how much money they're getting.
No, but that's not true, sir. We're not taking 25 students from every middle school. I already figured that out, okay? But we're taking 125 from the district, yes, but they're not all, maybe that's why Kitty Hawk is at 9880.
Right. Well, that's what we did to project with, okay, because that's what we were told,
Right,
25 per kid.
right.
So what happens, in October, we do a team snapshot of all the enrollment and all the kids. So in November, we go back and look at actually how many kids are at each school, and then we adjust the money we give them based on those true numbers.
Oh, okay.
This is
Okay.
just a starting for their plan, and we'll give them the rest of their money in November.
And I guess Converse Elementary, 19,575, 101, that's item, code number 101?
Yes, sir.
And I guess that's because they're going to be moving some teachers or something.
Right, the
Is that
boundary
correct?
changes, some of the enrollment, attendance areas that are being changed will have an impact on a number of these schools.
Coronado is going down by 10,875. Is that the same thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They're going to Salinas.
Okay, that's all I have on page 107. We'll get to the other one in a minute. Anybody else? Yes, sir, go ahead.
And, in the sheriff's department, what's happening is this issue of carrying less than lethal force is really coming to the peak at key close. Which when you carry a firearm, you have to either have a mace, an ass, or taser. The sheriff's department's buying all tasers for every peace officer, because the view is now is that, you know, if you don't have less than lethal force, all you have is a firearm to shoot somebody. This is what's coming down. So I would get with Chief Gonzalez and look at this, what's coming. It's gonna come from T-close. The problem with tasers is they're very expensive. You gotta certify them every year. The training cartridge is $30 a piece. This is gonna be, even though we got 20 officers now? 20? This is gonna be a big expense because it's coming. The sheriff's department's already biting the bullet. And there's 700 law enforcement officers, including reserve, we're not counting on the jail. So, get with Teresa and see what you think, Mac, but it's gonna be a big expense.
We need to get with our attorney as well, because the last time we heard from our attorneys, they didn't want all of our officers carrying
Well,
guns.
it's not attorney thing, June, it's T-close, it's Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. I mean,
Yeah, but it's
like
still a
they said,
liability for the district.
It's what's happening now, June, is that it's a liability to not carry less than lethal. So whether you like.
And we might have to get some of the sheriffs and not have our own police force.
Well, the sheriff will be carrying tasers.
Yeah, but then we don't have to buy them. The county will buy them.
Maybe,
If it's the cost, the
I'm
county will.
pretty sure the chief,
It's kinda
and
like
she's pretty good.
It's kinda
I
like
guarantee you, she'll be looking for grants.
It's kind of like calculators for the STAR test. It's something we're gonna have to bite the bullet with. It's coming. It's not-
Calculators
it's not-
and
it's not
education,
either like it
police
or
don't
not.
fit the same
T-close is gonna mandate it.
Okay.
They all do carry
I'm like, real police in there.
They all carry ass and makes it correct.
That's not good enough? I forgot we had a policeman there. You safe with that?
Well,
You don't have to answer, I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you.
just telling you.
I know, right? I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
Let's go to special ed.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, let's go to the next page. He already talked about the election.
Wait, Richard-
Special ed, item, oh,
Miscellaneous.
I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
No, go ahead, I'll find it.
Okay, sir. 803, special education. The budget, this is over and above from the state. That's the first question. Is that correct?
Excuse me, yes.
Okay. We're saying that we need 621,000 more. What are we adding? I mean, what's coming?
We're still having a very difficult time hiring employees that are in certain areas like speech or LSSPs. So the special ed department is still having to contract out a lot of these services, and we just seem to be having a really hard time getting a hold of that area.
And I think you and Dr. Mackey had already told me that was part of the reason.
Right.
And
Now our new
and not that I'm against that, okay? I just, if we need it, and I know it's very hard to get those certificates, because they make more money by being consultants than being an employee, okay?
Now
And I understand that.
Sure. Now, our special ed department, I do want to say, has come up with a plan which we think is good, that hopefully will work. And that is that they're trying to come up with some assistant positions that we're going to be discussing with the board, so that they can help some of these students under the supervision of a licensed individual to kind of be able to provide the service without having to hire some of these consultants. But we'll discuss that a little bit more with the board when we look at positions and see what y'all think about that.
But there's some of them probably that will not escape, that they need that.
Oh, no.
They need to get that person to come and work with those
I mean, it's
special
a matter,
kids or whatever.
you're right, and it's a matter of the number of students that need services.
Okay.
You know, as we have a lot more students that are identified that need services, and we need bodies to help them, then we don't have a choice sometimes. But they're also talking about, right now we're offering a lot of one-on-one instruction and maybe doing some group instruction, so we have one individual with maybe 3 or 4 children or more, so that they can, instead of having one-on-one, which will also help. So they're coming up with some good ideas to hopefully control some of those costs.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I found
Yes, sir.
security entrances.
What number, so what page? Same page?
Number 999.
It
It's on page, no, people don't have a page.
It is on page 109.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, I see it. Okay, Richard.
$100,000, how many entrances is that gonna buy?
We only worked on 2 this year, and we did not use over $100,000 this year, Park Village and Salinas. So we're hoping.
What does one like Park Village cost?
Park Village was very cheap, it was less than $10,000, I can't remember the exact price, we had a couple other things too. It was a very inexpensive solution, but we're also looking at doing the full vestibule, which, can be up to $25,000 to $30,000 on the facility and how it's laid out. So we're hopefully, if we do another $100,000, we'll hopefully try to get at least 3 more in the next school year.
Did you do, Hardman never got done yet, right?
Hartman has still not been done. That's correct. Hartman, Woodlake, Olympia, and there's one other one I can't think what it is. They're very difficult because of the current layout.
Carroll.
Bishal, Bishal is very similar to Salinas in the front entrance. So that won't be as difficult. Matter of fact, I thought we did Bishal.
So you can do 2 more this year with the 100,000, or?
Well, hopefully next year we'll get 3 more, but that 100,000 will be able to do it next year.
How much did you have carry over from, that you said you didn't spend $100,000 this year?
We don't carry over, we start
Well.
back to base, we start back to zero.
Put them in. Put another
If we're going to bring,
$10,000
if there's anything that's going to be rolled forward from the prior year, we always bring it to the board as a budget amendment, and we'll tell you this is coming from the prior year, and then you can decide to approve or not.
What do we need money-wise to fix our elementary schools? That needs fix. Put them on the spot.
Yeah, you are. I would really like to sit back and
Do
bring
that.
that to you.
Give me a figure what I need to fix our schools.
So hit all the remaining elementary schools.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually what I was going to ask, and I had brought this up before and asked a little bit about that because I appreciate the efforts, but I really feel very uncomfortable doing 1 or 2 campuses at a time, and just we'll get them all taken care of in how many years if we're doing that. The other thing I had asked about, and I can ask for it to be something more of a formal discussion if I need to, but some of our campuses have locked down. I know Park Village in particular is one that has a camera and it's locked down, and I know there's been mixed reviews on that, but having a door that's locked and a camera and you push a button to get in, I know that's not traditional, but it wasn't traditional in the hospitals and the PICUs and the NICUs until more recently, and that's an immediate instant fix. I know it comes with a cost, but it is a lot faster and it is cheaper than this reconstruction. And that's something I'd like to talk about at some point, just because I do not like saying, okay, well, we're going to fix these 2 schools, but all our other elementaries are going to wait until we come up with the money for it. I'm much more inclined to look at what are our other options in the meantime. Even if we still want to reconstruct entrances, I'm not suggesting we just take that off the table. But in the meantime, is there a faster, more, and Steve's question was my first question, is how much total? But then my second question is, before we even get to that, can you also get us costs if we were to make, an option for that in terms of locking down? And for any of the board that doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's the same as in hospitals. It's locked. You have to push a button to get in, and the receptionist can remotely unlock the door by the push of a button.
On the computer screen, they can look at
Right.
you and talk
Yeah,
to you.
well, they know who
Right.
it is, and they know somebody's coming into the school.
Right, and there's also
Now, if this
audio.
person don't show up in the office,
Right, well, and there's also audio too. You can ask the person, why are you here? What are you coming for? So before you even open a door or stand up from your desk, you can see and hear a person. And, I mean, I really don't know the cost of that. I'm sure that cost is significant too, but in light of everything going on, and it just kind of seems to be getting worse in terms of the way of the world, that's something I'm interested too, is the cost of something like that, or any other ideas that we may not have addressed, but more immediate fix, and potentially for any of our campuses, what the cost would be.
That camera would be the most economical and most immediate fix to catch all of them.
Right.
And then we may be able to go back and work some other issues. One of the
Get a bond
systems that we
issue.
were trying to look at is kind of a double system. It's where you come in and you've got the regular vestibule, but then the secretary sits there at like a banquet room.
Right.
And so they can see you one-on-one there, and then they get to slide your card underneath and get that back. It's kind of a double deal. Some of those people may never even have to come into the office. They don't let you in the office
Right.
until you do that. So there are a couple of different solutions that we've seen out there, like Northside's doing full food class, a bunch there. So there are many options, but that would be the most economical.
I'm just curious too, because all of our campuses, we have different ages of our campuses, so before we're just dropping a whole lot of money to design the front of a school, I'd rather have more time to think about those kind of things in the construction of everything, but in the immediate time frame, get an immediate fix that everybody's comfortable with. And that's another thing that I will bring, and will be on the next agenda, but receptionist positions, making sure that there is someone at every front door, every entryway of a school, because there are still campuses that I can walk on to visit and go completely undetected and just get right in.
You can walk in every school in the United States and be undetected.
Well, I agree. Well,
Yeah. There's 20 door
Yeah.
entries, and they're
Well,
left open all day, and you can walk in just
Sure.
about any door
Sure,
at any
but
time.
I can assure you that, the staff, when I go out and visit, has been very, very vigilant on making sure doors are locked. They have staff members, they have custodial staff that are checking for doors to be locked. But I'm not suggesting we can solve all problems, but I think we need to make every effort we can within reason, within our budget. I'd love to have a police officer at every front door too, but I think, we need to work within our budget and come up with the best solution. But having a human being at the front entryway of every school and a locked door, I think could go a really, really long way. And it buys us more time to get an armed officer if something happens and it gives us just a little bit more time. And that's often what we need, is we need those precious moments before we can get someone to a campus. So, but thank you.
And
But
also-
those are the costs I was
And also
looking at.
remember that a lot of these situations, unfortunately, that have occurred, it's been students. It's been students that
Absolutely,
are
yeah.
not somebody's coming in
Oh.
after hours later.
Yep.
Mr. Celia?
All of them.
No, history repeats itself. If you look at the 2010 bond, it was about $8 million to fix all of it. When you pull out the old bond, that was 2010. We went through all that. When y'all were here, it was about $8 million to fix all our security issues in the 2010 bond, which failed. Right, Mr. Young?
Yeah, if we do just the basic camera system with the remote unlocking the door, probably at least $10,000 range for probably. That's real basic. And of course, like Dr. Mackey said, that doesn't mean other entrances aren't about those that are probably wrong. But it is more,
I'm good.
it's a much more nominal cost.
I wanted to ask Mr. LaFoy, so they put it on Park Village and you've seen it and it's working
Oh,
very
yeah,
well?
it's great.
Okay,
It's
okay, well, maybe,
Yeah, you walk up there, and you push the button, and the secretary sees you, right there on her computer.
I don't
I
see
think-
it.
The
and
button
one of
lets you in if she wants to, Maybe they don't push the button anymore.
She doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Oh, there again.
Jokes down.
Just didn't work for you, did it?
Well, and one other follow-up to that too is, I mean, I've seen it down there, I've seen it in action, and one of the biggest arguments I've heard against it is that parents wouldn't like it. And I can promise you, as a parent to elementary students, as a parent to kids in this district, I'm more than happy to sit and wait to be let into a school, knowing that everybody else, in theory, is sitting to wait to be let into a school. And that's a huge, that's a sense of relief, a sense of safety for.
Well, they don't have to wait anymore. Once they push the button, they open the door because it's a buzzer.
Right. Oh, I know. Oh, no. But I mean, just in general, the fact that I've gotten people that are afraid or fearful that parents don't want our doors locked. Period. Because it. And I would tell you as a parent, no, I disagree. I'm okay with them having locked.
I haven't found a parent that don't want the door locked.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yes. And I've been told that people might not like that. It's a public school. The doors are supposed to be unlocked, and they can come in. And that's unfortunately not the way it is now. You can come in, but you have to wait and tell us why you're here first. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we go to page 8, 731, print shop mail room, 21,850? Are we mailing a lot of mail outs, or what's going on there? It was 28.8. Oh, stamps. Just, why, what's the increase, Jose? Right. Not that I'm against that, I just want to know what's the increase.
That'll go away, don't worry, Dr. Mackey, most of that print shop stuff, once we get the new high school.
I hope so, sir.
Yeah,
Some of it.
That's where we're making money.
I'll spend it.
Now they just make, it's like the pool, we don't make all that.
Yeah.
I'll show you how.
It's their vehicles, it's one vehicle, it's a van to replace one of the vehicles they have right now.
Okay. No problem. And I can understand the textbooks administrator because of the textbooks, or whatever that they're gonna need. Let's go to page 9. This one really caught my eye.
There's one in there that's a mistake, so let's see.
Oh, I hope it's this one, Jose. 918, building and ground. We're going up by 1.5 million. Are we buying bulldozers?
No, we're gonna buy Park Northeast. No, I'm just kidding. What's gonna happen is, or what happened is the maintenance director there came up, they visited all the campuses and came up with a list of all the projects they would like to complete at every one of the campuses. And so that's what that number is, and Dr. Mackey referred to it a while ago as to, things that maybe would be good to do, but we can't do everything at one time. So that's one of the numbers that we'll be definitely looking at. But he went through and really looked at all the asphalt repair that was needed at the campuses. Just things that need to, that need to really be done. But it goes back to the same old thing. We don't have so many resources, and we have to kind of prioritize and kind of phase out.
There is a line item list
Yes.
per campus that shows exactly what we'll be doing.
That's excellent.
Good, good. Like I s-
It's better than, trying to pass a bond or do something like that.
Yeah.
If we get the money, just go ahead and get it done.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not against these numbers. I
Yeah.
just want to know, okay?
But you'll get the whole list, and y'all can say, you know what, maybe let's not do this school this year or something, if you kind of give us some direction.
Okay.
Okay, I noticed that the 999 on the Wagner track,
That's the one that's a
No
mistake.
problem.
That's the one that's a mistake.
oh, that's a
The one-
mistake?
The one underneath it says Judson High School track?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a Wagner track. So
Oh,
that
I was
450 is supposed to
wondering,
be
I said, we just, excuse me, I'm getting dangerous. Hi, Mr. Macias. Oh, good evening, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. We're- So, that's supposed to be Wagner and not Judson
Yes.
High School?
Yep.
Did you all get that? That 450,000
Yes, sir, we
for
did.
the track meet? For
Change the
the
name.
track is Wagner,
Change the name.
which they needed it for a long time, and
Yes, sir.
and they finally did the study and everything, so we're gonna make sure it's gonna be perfect.
And let me kind of tell you what's going to happen, kind of so you know in advance. It goes back to something that was asked a minute ago about rolling the budget forward. When this particular project was initially identified, it was thought the project was going to cost maybe around $600,000 to $700,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so last year, we budgeted $420,000 in the general operating fund for that, and the rest of it was gonna come out of the bond money, the leftover bond money that we have. Well, when the engineer got involved and started looking at all the things they had to do, all the subsurface work they had to do, the infrastructure kind of items, then they said, well, this is gonna be more expensive than that. It's gonna go over $1 million. So we're asking for $450,000 that they're gonna put in here for this budget for 14-15. Later, when I was telling you about doing a budget amendment for things that we budgeted for in 1 year and we didn't spend, that's what's gonna happen with this money. We didn't spend that $420,000, and we're not going to by June 30th. So next year, I'm gonna come back after July, in August or September, and say, all right, I need to amend the budget for that $420,000 that we budgeted for last year that we didn't spend, and we're gonna add it. So we'll have $870,000 here, plus the bond money. And still, and we still need a little bit more. I'm not sure yet. Once we get the proposals in, we can tell you the exact number.
But when is the work gonna be done? This school year? Go ahead, sir.
Just, we've given the architect and engineer direction, Dr. Matthews, what they want to do. So we've
Right.
given them direction. They are giving us a closer final price list. They're going to complete the drawings. So we're probably not going to be, we're doing the procurement method May 14th. We're going to ask y'all procurement method May 14th. So the drawings probably won't be done maybe the end of May, first week of June. At that time, we'll be able to go out to bid. So we're not even going to have bid back until June.
Oh, okay.
So we're not going to be able to start the work till probably mid to late July, going into August. They will, by the time they get to track season, they should, yes.
Did they estimate the time that it would take to do that track?
3 to 3.5 months.
Oh, okay. One of the things that I wanted to ask about, and I didn't see it, the tennis courts at Woodlake Hills Middle School.
We're still working on that. That was something that was brought up to me today. We're still working to get all that done.
Okay.
We did hire an architect for that.
Okay, thank you, sir, because I want to make sure that we're working on that. 819, I guess that must be page 10. Oh, yeah, 110. 819, professional development. And I think Ms. Robinson had mentioned this, that we're going to be training the teachers. That's why we need that additional, right, to make sure that the teachers.
That in the schools, that we've added in other schools, so it's that many more employees. I mean, we're
Okay, I didn't think about that. Thank you.
This is new teachers are included in this, all the new teacher development
Okay.
and the empowering teacher piece.
Tell me about 829, school improvement director. What is that?
Well, that's Dr. Arnell, but we're coming with a change of title for that. So that's all her office supplies and paper and everything she needs.
What number is that?
829.
829, ma'am, on page 110.
I got
And keep in mind, we're not done with it.
Year,
I started today whittling, and it's not reflected on here yet, so this is not what you're gonna see in the end.
we have a code number, well, we don't have a code number, year 2 startup, 332,724.
Right, it's for the J-STEM program. It's the items that, every year we're going to be adding a class to the STEM program at Delta Middle School. So that's the second year that we're going to be adding the items that we need for the second year. And
Okay,
then
so-
there'll be one more until we get to the third, and then we'll be leveled off.
Dr. McAfee, please remember to put that on the agenda, and let's not have it at 10 o'clock at night where, because I'm not good, it's great at 10 o'clock at night, but we need to talk about STEM.
Yep.
We have
Well-
some major concerns, if we can move the agenda item up earlier so that the people that want to hear about it can,
Take care.
this will be the third time we try.
Oh. I'm sorry, 111, summer school end of course, 300,000. I know you did it last year.
111?
We're on page 111.
We
You're
always
faster
budget,
than me.
Oh, the last page.
we always budget money in there for the people that we're going to have to hire for that summer school program. And it's the required English course that we need for all the.
That is, I know that. We did it last year, 300,000.
And one thing.
How much did we use out of the 300,000? That's the question.
I'm going to have to report that.
Because a lot of the kids did not show up for
They
the end
didn't-
of
We
course.
didn't use it all, so then it goes right back in general operating, what we don't use.
Better to over budget though.
Eh?
It's better to over
Hold
budget.
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, no,
because
I
it's-
understand that, I just, and I know we need it. I just,
I'll let you know. We'll get you-
so, what, we're not spending $500,000 in,
No,
now I
no,
understand
no.
that, not all of it was used, it goes back to general, but
That's
we're
exactly-
starting with the same
that's
number.
exactly-
Okay.
To be safe.
I have no other questions. Anybody, oh, Mr. Sellier, sorry. Yeah, we'll come back to you, sir.
999 Mariachi.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Tell me, what page are you on?
It's,
It's the mariachi program.
110. Mariachi program. That's a big increase. Where's that at?
Yeah, well, just keep in mind that that's not, you're not gonna get that when you get the actual number.
Okay.
What do they wanna buy them?
You're gonna get enough increase to buy one of each kind of the 3 guitars, is all, which is not gonna be near that much. The kids that are in the mariachi band that are in orchestra, so violins, for instance, they have their violins, because they come from orchestra. The horns come from band, the guitars don't exist. So we wanna have at least one set for that band.
Second thing.
Yes, sir.
We talked about, when I do my rounds in the fall, talking to principals, but then we talked about testing of students. How do we do it? I mean, the big concern when I talk to principals and parents involved is that we have so many number of kids that the parents requesting testing. It's kind of pushing on the system.
For what program?
For special ed and autism.
Okay, special ed, Miss Laura,
Okay.
and Dr. Gill, they'd be better off answering that question.
That was one of the big concerns of the principals and stuff. I mean, do we keep up? I mean, do we keep up with testing? It was a 60-day mandate, right?
Correct.
Do we keep up with that?
Yes, we actually what we've done is we've doing this with all the students that have and then I moved them forward and we still try to be checked to make sure that we're on time.
Yes, sir. I have concern the principal because that was really time consuming.
Yes, and that's one of the things that we're asking them to do because we're really looking at ensuring that once the students identify or have special testing, that is followed through with it.
So that's what we discussed about that.
Yes,
I'm sure it's built into that increase.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Macias. Mr. Macias.
Well, thank you. Again, my apologies for being late. Job duties. Now, Ms. Robinson, we
Yes, sir.
talked at a last program review about the necessity of increasing math support for individuals that going through their Princeton review. You acknowledged that they were weak in math skills. I see math intervention on page 111 that has an increase from 200,000 to 235. So I guess before I look through all this, what are we doing in terms of trying to address that math deficiency that you pointed out at the last meeting?
Well, this math intervention right here goes with RTI, which is we have to do by the state.
Okay.
And here's something, you weren't here, this is a real preliminary. We're
Okay.
already whittling, some of these things have already been cut, just so you know. But what I'm trying to put together for you all, so we can bring it to you on the 14th, is I've listed everything on 999 and what the law is. If it's not the law, then it's blank. It just shows you we want this, but we don't have to have it.
Okay.
And then which items are legally required. And I've quoted the actual law so you could, verify if you want to, so you can see. House Bill 5 has put some added expense on it.
I see. Well,
So you know how iStation's on here for the reading intervention? Stride, they had a committee and they went out to bid and they looked at everything TEA recommended and they worked with Mr. Ashmore and this is the product they chose or selected for math for
so
that same.
what are you recommending for that deficiency in math?
Well, a couple of things. We're looking at, they have the intensified algebra on here
And
and it's gotten
intensified?
stronger each year, I hope, because I know all of our other scores went up.
Are we
Well,
putting more money into the intensified?
No,
process?
sir. We just are getting better at delivering the program. It's a teacher-based program.
Wha-
The second thing is if you'll recall, on the Princeton review, we're going to put that, they're going to provide that, I can't remember the name, I'm sorry, but it's the curriculum they can do up front to help close the gaps before they start the SAT program.
Well, and last year we had allocated $300,000. It looks like you utilized $96,000 towards the program, and then this next year you're only asking for $200,000.
Which thing?
The Princeton review specifically. on page 110.
Right, and I can explain why.
Okay.
When we did it originally through you all last year, this time of year, we had payroll costs because we were gonna hire teachers. And so it was in a different, it wasn't even showing on here, because nothing on 999 is people, it's the materials itself. And so what showed last year was 100,000 for the materials, and the other money was under payroll. 200,000 was under payroll. And so this year, we ended up using their services because
Yeah.
it was cheaper, and honestly, they were better trained to do it.
Sure.
So it ended up, but now they roll the cost together because there's no payroll cost.
Okay.
So if you added the two last year, it was 300,000 together using their people. It's the 200,000.
Okay, so
Okay.
the plan is to, I guess,
Continue, yes, sir.
continue and.
And we're gonna make those adjustments they recommended or said they could do.
Okay, and I guess the other part that I noticed on here is we've decreased our budget on some things that state college on it, and I just want to make sure I understand. Like the PSAT, on top of page 111, you have a variance of 36,000. You're not recommending any money towards the PSAT.
Yes, but this isn't correct, sir.
It's not
Because we're
correct.
doing the suite. Remember, we're buying the whole suite together, and the whole suite together is $80,000.
Where is that?
And I think because this was the item from last year. Remember, we just had PSAT last year?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So where would the PSAT be found in this one right now?
On page 11?
The first, no, it's
No,
there, I
that's
pointed to that
PSAT.
one, but where the,
I know what
where the
you did.
suite is.
We did, it's in, that's what we did. I'm sorry, it's on page, you found it, thank you, 110, page 110.
96,000 to 200,000?
No, that's the principal review.
$80,000,
80,000.
and that 36 will be coming off. Oh,
Okay.
you'll notice it's blank.
Oh, the
So I see-
It's
SAT
blank.
suite.
So
Sorry.
that 36,000 then that we were
Notice
spending,
it's blank for this next year
Yes.
because it's included in here.
so we got a bargain then because we've
We're
only
getting,
increased
let me tell you
6,000?
what we're getting. Eighth grade, they'll give the ready step, which is the first step. Then ninth grade, they'll give the ready step, and then PSAT in 10 and 11, and SAT in 12th grade.
Okay.
Okay, so our kids will have a solid pathway to full data.
And I guess the other item that was interesting was also on page 111, college and career ready class, decreasing it by 55,000.
Yes,
can you-
because some of the materials went online and we don't need to buy them again. We were
Okay.
buying a lot of consumables, and now we don't have to. There's only a little bit of consumable.
Thank you for clarifying. I do want to commend the fact that I noticed that we're going to add Avid in the middle school. and
We're
that's
asking
important.
for that this year because, it doesn't require lots and lots and lots of, at middle school, it's where they train all the teachers and the counselors, and it's a more in-class integrated piece. So it
And then-
doesn't have all that faculty.
And the other question that's coming to mind is remediation cycles. I don't understand that, but I imagine our students may need remediation.
The
What-
remediation cycles are required by state law in between each testing period for the EOC grade levels.
Mhm.
So like we're giving it now, the kids who don't pass, we have to provide summer school for them, and we have to pay for it.
And so we're not going to pay for it this next year?
Yeah,
Based- You have remediation.
it's in the
zero-
summer school budget.
Is that where it's been placed? Is it zero? It's in the 300,000?
Yeah, what page are we
Uh,
on?
That was when.
You asked about it.
It's on page 111, 1, 2, 3, the fourth item from at the end.
Yeah, there.
But that's not an increase, so I'm wondering.
No, in fact, here.
Is it- I know that we need to pay that, but this 36,000 is savings then, I guess, right?
The 300,000, we budget every year because you don't know how many kids may need it. We haven't yet used near that amount, but we're better safe we
To
feel
budget.
safer putting the money there.
But he's saying that
The
36,000.
remediation cycles, I guess it's not clear to me that overage that you won't use in the 300 will go to the remediation
Right,
cycles.
it's down here in the 300.
So, I don't know. I think from a accounting standpoint, it might be easier to just leave it still on a separate line item and decrease that to 264,000. That way we at least know that we're offering, because I wouldn't know. If we had this budget next
Yeah.
year, I would have no idea that we're offering remediation cycles at all.
Okay,
I mean,
that's fine.
by law, it might be there, but just from accounting standpoint.
And we're gonna get you were not here, we're gonna get an update on everything, on the budgets on Thursday, the 14th. Oh, no, that's Wednesday. Wednesday's the 10th? The 14th. And,
Graduation.
He's gonna find the right date.
then we're gonna set up some special
Yeah,
meetings
that's how I am tonight.
for the
Okay.
budget, because we need to, even if we have to have a Saturday.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so then in regards to back to the math issue that was brought up at the last program review, what in this budget have we done to maybe address that or try to address it?
We have professional development, we have all new math sheets coming from the state. We're getting them at the end of the year, so all the math is different next year, statewide. K-12, we have development sessions, yes, all different. And so we have a bunch of development set up in the summer that we're putting all of our teachers through. We have some all year built in. We have a new textbook that's gonna help, I think, bridge. The problem with the TEKS are they change them before they change the books often, and then they don't match. This year, they actually are changing the textbook at the same time.
So,
Which is good.
I think the math tutoring was something that was just recommended, and, so in order to address those deficiencies for our students that have poor math skill sets at the present time, what do you think is going to help them?
Well, one, we're taking the EFCs next week. All of our other data at our other grade levels has gone up exponentially, so I want to be able to see how many kids we're even talking about. I mean, we've gotten better, so we don't have this year's data. Huh? Actually, the research goes back to the number one thing that we can control that affects student outcomes is teacher quality. So your best dollar is to put into teachers, because you can buy programs. Great teachers will make, you know what I mean? Great teachers build relationships with kids and families.
So do you have a different evaluation, interview process that you're gonna be utilizing to ensure that we have that?
I don't know.
Mm.
That's the principal.
Well, do we have professional development scheduled for our principals?
We do.
So that they can do a better
We
job
do.
of our.
We do.
Well, I'm still not clear on what type of extra support, so I guess we could talk a little more about that at a later time. I just want to be clear that we're going to do more than we've done to help those students that are having some weaknesses in
How
math.
about I bring you something? Because we do stuff with comp ed and tutoring, we do stuff with title money and tutoring. I mean, there's a variety of things we do that's beyond this general operating.
Yeah, and just to put it in a very simplified way, when you brought the concern that our students didn't have the ability, the math skill,
That's not, well, let me clarify. I didn't say our students didn't have math skills. What I said is if they're struggling in math, just as SAT prep, or if they're not very, very strong in math, and you put them in an SAT prep, they don't go back and fill those gaps. They're just doing test strategies for that test.
but, and I appreciate the clarification, I didn't know how to communicate that, but that's exactly what you had mentioned. I'm still trying to get that cohort, or those profile of students that support in those areas, because if they're not strong in math, I mean, we can actually help them, at least I'd like to.
Right.
And I'd like to see if math tutoring is the most efficient way to do that, or if there's another way to get that accomplished. And my last question for right now would be the bullying. We had Mrs. Mead address middle school, she's from middle school actually. She addressed the board last meeting, I believe, about a program that they have over at Metzger Middle School. And in the face of some issues that we've been having at Kirby and at Judson Middle School, I wanted to know if we're addressing that through that program potentially in this budget.
No,
Has there been
no.
any recommendation?
Every school address their own way of bullying. They have different bullying programs and things that they do at every
Mainly we
school.
use Tremaine.
Yeah,
Mainly we use
use
Tremaine.
Tremaine,
We
yeah,
do, district-wide.
district-wide.
Well,
I don't think it's real effective.
I was going to say, I'm sold on the one at Metzger. I don't know what we could do to implement similar programs so that at least there's some consistency of what the district is doing across the board. And so I don't know if you can find information on what might be reasonable. I don't know what was for Haines Tremaine. I guess I can take a look later and find that out too. But if we're getting results at Metzger, and I think we've seen decreases in student issues, we might need to look at that for Kirby and Judson Middle School.
So
City
I-
Hall needs problems.
Thank
They
you.
have a lot of
So,
bullying in City
so
Hall.
I just want to get back to that, and I'd like a recommendation on what that would look like. I don't think that particular program is expensive, and so that's why I think it could be of a benefit to the district, especially at the middle school age.
Well, it outcomes and also, we run into fine ground when we're using people to do programs like that are not certified. They're not certified counselors, they're not certified social workers. So a lot of the call outs of kids, if you don't have somebody in the room that's certified, then we can run into legal issues.
Well,
I think they always have
please,
teachers in there, don't they?
yeah, I think they do.
Teachers aren't
They have-
trained in
They have
counseling.
counsel, and they have counsel.
No,
So do you think
They
that
have
Mets,
you without them?
sometimes, I think.
I'm just, obviously
Yeah, you
want to
need to
make
check
sure
on
our
that.
district is doing
You
things
wanna be in
appropriately.
compliance.
Yeah, so if you find out that that's the case, just performance alone at Metzger merits that this program is probably working and our kids are being helped.
I don't think it's the program. I think the money that we put in there, the leadership that we put in there, and all the academic programs that we put in there, we put a substantial amount of money in Metzger to make this thing happen. Metzger hasn't always been like that. We put a lot of staff development, and we put a lot of money over there. It's a lot. The other schools are not even close to the money that we put over there at Metzger to make this thing work. Because it was on a stage 3, and we put a lot of money over there at Metzger.
But I think he's only addressing the bullying part.
Yeah, specifically, but now you say that, I'd probably like to take a look at what that looks like,
Yeah.
how much more we're
Yeah.
giving one middle school over another
Yeah,
in terms of
we-
resources.
Because at that time, the state, we had to put a certain amount of
I
money.
understand that,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand. And was that money, did it have to come out of our operations, or did we get
It was a
grant
lot of
money
title
for it?
money.
It was title money.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
good to get title money.
Yeah, but it's not just it's not a program that makes it, it's the leadership that makes that go.
I think it's probably a combination thereof. I don't
And the
disagree
belief
with
in
you.
the
The belief in the
program and
yeah.
the passion, I mean,
Yeah.
Ms. Mead has a passion for that program.
Well, I just give a lot of kudos to Metzger Middle School. and
Yeah, they've done a great
I've seen
job.
what they've done,
Yeah.
and if it's money, I mean, if money's gonna make our
We'll
schools
bring you a
better,
recommendation.
but I'd like to take a look at that, and,
Maybe let Mr. Macias see that packet we got, because Tremaine gave me a packet when I went to a conference. So maybe also give him the packet from Tremaine of what we are offering under the Tremaine program, because I have that, and I don't know where mine is, that's pretty
I'll find it.
and,
We can call it.
and a very good point that Mr. Selyer brought in, with Tremaine, we'd probably like to see some return. What does that look like? Have we seen decreases in areas of bullying at the campuses?
I don't think we've seen decreases anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think
We've
so.
seen increases.
I think so.
That's our society going.
But
that
I'm
direction.
wondering if that's the case at Metzger. I really, again, I'm sold on the program. I've seen it work, and it really helps kids. So, let's just take a look at it.
That's it, Mr. Flynn, that's it.
Well, on this, yeah, well, we still have a couple of items here. Under 4,
Oh, hold on, Mr. Salinas, I'm so sorry. Never mind, forgive me.
under 4, Board, you received the internal auditor policy. It's a draft. Make sure and look at it.
It's supposed to be the first reading. I thought.
Yeah, it's a first reading, but
First
saying,
reading.
to look at it, if they have any concerns or need to change something, make sure and let
Say
us know.
draft.
We gave us a whole bunch, we didn't decide on which one we wanted to use.
The draft.
It's a first reading.
You gave us a whole bunch, right?
I gave you a whole
You gave
bunch.
us a whole bunch, and we haven't picked one yet.
Well, everybody was supposed to get
No.
with the,
We were supposed to get our
supposed to
feedback.
get with the president and tell him
We
what.
have to pick on it in the meeting, we have to vote on what we want to use, you just can't pick one.
This is the process of
Hey, you
picking.
can.
Out of,
How's it the process of picking one?
Because we have a
not all-
first
We
reading.
have not all agreed on it.
Well,
That's
that's what
not
we're
how,
gonna,
that's not how the policy
We
recommendation
have not
goes.
agreed on it.
Did we all agree on this one?
That's not how it goes.
I didn't agree on anything. I didn't agree,
Wait.
he hasn't agreed on anything.
That's not how the first reading, that's what the first reading is.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we'll discuss it, and if you have something that you want to change, that's when we talk about it. Normally, we haven't been talking during first reading. Everybody just ignores it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But that's
this
what we're
is a
supposed to
policy
do.
that we've never had before.
So
And
we
there
should
are
talk
some
about it.
changes that I'd like to make.
and that's what we're
that's
supposed
what
to
we-
do.
So write 'em-
everybody got a draft.
Well, I
You
think
know.
we need to talk about it a little. Not just right then, that's gonna be it. No.
Well, how are we gonna do it?
Well,
Because we need a work session to do that. We really can't do that at a board meeting.
well, then that's the first reading would be at the work session.
Okay, so you want to schedule a work session for the first reading? So we can talk about whatever we're doing. My Saturdays are tied up, but I'll do
Any
nights.
input on this, and we need to do it in between. This is, my point here is, this is a board issue. This is not a district issue. This policy
I see what you're saying.
is board policy, so we need to discuss it as a board.
I understand.
In a work session.
They, what, you see there the draft,
Yeah,
it's,
it's a draft.
they, we got a whole bunch of them from different districts.
That's correct.
I said, wait a minute, I told legal, do a draft for Judson.
A
Okay,
draft
and
first
then I said, that way we can sit down, discuss it, change it, delete, add, whatever you wanna do. And, okay, yeah, we need to do that now. The thing is, when do we wanna do it? Do you wanna do it the hour before?
No, we have something that night.
Yeah, we can,
But-
we can cancel that, y'all can do that.
No, we want to do the Copperfield thing. Mrs. Selya, you have the hardest schedule. Why don't you give us the time you're available first?
What day? You have the, I don't have a calendar. I
And then
bring
you
my
check
calendar.
your schedule, you and Gilbert. Me and Beth will just come along for the ride. Okay. And Ms. LaFoy, you ride with us.
Right, we got board meeting on the 14th, graduation on the 15th.
How about Monday, May 19th, or Tuesday, the 20th?
No,
Where-
we need to have it before the board meeting.
No.
Because how are we gonna have it on the agenda if we
Yeah,
haven't
it's
had
on
the
the
work
agenda as a
session?
first reading.
We need the work session before the board
I
meeting.
actually thought we could do that now. I mean, we're here to
Well,
look
this
at
is
that.
what we could do now, but
Yeah,
I
we
don't
could
think you're
clearly
prepared.
do
You're
that
not
now.
prepared to talk now, are you?
You're not prepared?
No, I mean, we never said we were discussing it.
It's on the agenda.
What happened on the 8th?
I'll be out there. Y'all do what you want. I'm gonna go down with
You know? I mean, you're gonna do it anyway. Anyway, you're gonna do it.
Why are you complaining?
No, I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna go down. How's that? I mean, y'all do what you want.
What day are you available? For a work
No.
session?
Then we just keep it first reading.
No. Mrs. Williams, what day do
No,
you
I don't
have
want to
for a
talk
work
about it
session?
now.
You
Well,
wanna
the
talk
next
about
one
it
is the 29th.
I have one change that I want to
He's ready to talk about it now. It's on the agenda. Let's talk. Go for it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gilbert.
Where it says the board's role here on the first page,
First page.
number 3, communicate with the internal auditor. I think that the policy should be that the internal auditor can only communicate with the board when they're in a public forum,
Are there?
in a public called meeting. And if you can't, in between meetings, we'll call a special meeting. But I don't think, and if, that's one of my things on that, where they can only meet with the board, and that,
Well, it
so
says
that everybody hears
between
it
board
at the
meetings.
same time.
Isn't that where it says there?
That's between, but I'm talking about the between board meetings. I'm
Okay.
saying that if he wants to meet with us without getting anybody any information, so that we get it all at the same time.
Correct.
And I'd also like them there, if they meet with a board member or they're communicating with a board member, that audit's over and that person doesn't get to work with us for at least a year. You know,
What he's saying is individual board members cannot communicate with the auditor. It is the board.
the board as a whole.
And what's the practice in other districts? That sounds
It doesn't
pretty
matter,
extreme.
this is our policy we're setting. It
Well-
doesn't matter.
Well, it does, because
Why?
sometimes people are sanely looking at it, and they've done it for a while. We haven't, so we can't
Well,
act
we're
like we've
setting-
never done this before. It's been done, and I just asked him.
I would say that, Mrs. Salinas, that you take what Gilbert's asking and that you get with Walsh Anderson. Since they're the ones that drafted it, and they can
On
call.
that issue?
On
I'll
number
write
on
that
that
to you, I'll
issue.
send it to you.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I'll
okay,
yeah.
okay.
But it's better for them to call him, and then they can help him with the language of what he's proposing.
Or he can call. Gilbert can call.
Yeah, but get with them
Okay.
so we can have the language
Okay,
of
what was-
what the proposal is.
I'll put it together and,
And what is the other one?
well, that was it. It was.
Oh, okay, number
you know,
3.
I put those two together, you know. But I don't think that individual board members should be contacting the auditor or whoever we have doing it.
Once they are auditing something, I agree with you.
Well, but even when we engage the auditors,
Uh-huh.
we need to do it at a meeting as a board.
And I don't have a problem with that.
Now, I think that it's appropriate to note that as a board, we vote on what we want the internal audit to do. So
Right.
I can't go, for example, to the internal auditor and say, hey, I want you to look at this, this, and this. I don't have that authority to do that. We as a board do, which,
That's what I'm saying.
but
No, he's saying
not to talk to
he's
him
saying
at
that
all.
nobody
Right.
can talk to him once he's doing the audit.
And
I don't know if I
so
agree with that because.
Yeah,
Why?
I say,
Because when we've had the reviews, the demographer and other people that have come in and when we did the relining, then if there have been areas that we wanted to know what they were doing, we could ask the question. I think the rules that we have with the superintendent, that whatever he gives to one person, he gives to all. I think whatever answers the auditor gives should go to all board members. But I think that's pretty hamstringing, what's the right word?
standard.
Holding, that
I
can
don't
be
think
very
it is. Well,
constraining.
I'll talk to the attorneys and see if anybody.
Yeah, that's why I say, get the language and see what it says.
I think Gilbert's intent is that, this is a board audit. Therefore, we should address the auditors as a whole.
Correct. Whether it's in the open or if we have to go in executive session, we can go to executive session.
In that there's no undue influence by any single board member on the audit. That's what George said, I agree, that we should act as a whole. Okay? And whatever direction we give to the auditor comes from the board as a whole.
Exactly, not from one person.
Right. Well, I agree with that.
Yeah,
But we're talking about after the board has already decided what the parameters are. If I'm understanding Gilbert correctly, even after that's been decided, he does not want any board member to be able to talk to the auditor unless it's at a board meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Or we'll call a meeting and say, hey,
That's
nobody
what-
wants to meet
So
with us.
I'm
We
saying,
have a
once
question.
we've made the.
But some of it might have to be done on executive session.
Right, but
Right.
We cannot discuss everything in public.
She's not even talking about executive. And I kind of understand what you're saying. You're very much limiting it.
Why?
The time constraint of, say, for example, we call the meeting, we've set the guidelines, we want the auditor to determine why the carpet is blue and gray, and why is that material. We've all voted, and we said, this is what we want you to look at, Mr. Auditor. So, I call them and say, okay, I know it's blue and gray, but there's a strand of green here. Then I don't think that changes the basis of the audit sufficiently that there needs to be a specially called board meeting for all 7 of us to say there's a strand of green, because we've told him what we really want you to do is look at blue and gray. I don't think anybody should be able to change the scope, but I don't know about a meeting anytime he has a question to ask a board member. I just think all board members should be informed,
You're changing
just
what
like
the
Dr.
regular
Mackey.
board wanted to think. We voted together to go at these two things. Now you wanna do this one in there too, so that has to come back to the board, so we can go as a board.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Don't go on.
If you're
We'll
gonna
put
be
the
adding
wording-
something.
We'll put the wording in here.
Yes,
maybe it'll
put the
be
wording there, yeah,
Maybe
okay. Okay, and the other one was, the one that we got was the step allocation chart. Everybody got it, right? The step allocation. Okay, so we're not gonna meet, we're gonna get the information by the 14th on the budget and everything, so then we'll set a date on the 14th. Is that okay, sir? Okay.
Mr. Salinas,
yes.
Clock's right. On the staff allocation chart, that's all you wanted was just us to look at it? You didn't want to discuss any of the allocations?
If you want to discuss something, go ahead, we can do it. It's on the agenda.
Okay, well, you had mentioned, asking the question of how many receptionists we have. This would be an appropriate.
Okay, yes. Well, we want to report, every school has a receptionist. Is that correct? No. Okay.
This is something I had asked about, and I was.
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
actually
I'm
talked
sorry,
about-
wrong person.
No, that's fine.
No, I don't know, I actually just handed that over to Ms. Jackie too to have on our next board meeting, but if you wanna talk about it now.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
I guess it is fits under here. I had asked about it out of a safety standpoint, and I had talked about I'd love to have a campus, but this was something that was a little bit more practical. And a lot of our campuses already have receptionists, not all, and they had given us a breakdown, and I think the total cost for receptionists at every single campus was closer to 400,000, but the.
220, I
But
think.
but what we needed to, no, that was the total cost of everything, but the breakdown of who does not have a receptionist right now, that we would have to pay to have benefits and salary for a receptionist on every campus that does not already have one allotted for next year was just over 200. I think it was 205,000. We got that in information because I asked for it and they supplied that. So I was putting it on the next one to talk about, but I mean that was the breakdown was that. I mean, it's just making a guess, but it sounded like we had more than half, but not that many. So the cost was 205 is what I believe it was off the top of my head.
Is that correct, was it?
Information I got did say
Oh.
something
I don't
like
have all the
additional
information on that.
200,000.
Let us know what you want, and we'll give it to you.
I think,
But-
Dr.
But that's
Mackey, in
not-
order to not spend a lot of time at the board meeting on this item, if you all can tell the board how many receptionists and go by school, all the elementary schools, they have one, they don't have one, and then, the ones that y'all are recommending to be cut, because we've been getting calls of people that have been notified their positions will no longer be there next year, so let's just get to the crux of that. So the employees are concerned that they're not gonna have a job next year. Some of the board members are concerned about the schools not having one. So if we look at who has one, who doesn't have one, who you're planning on cutting, then we
How
can-
much it's gonna cost to have one
told
on
us
every,
it was
at least the
over 100,000.
elementaries, at least the elementaries?
For me, we don't have one at Ed Franz. We haven't had one. I'm not desirous of one. We have a very competent person there that I believe is the principal's secretary, and she does a great job of handling it all. So, but I'm not visiting Converse and Masters where they have an ELOC so many people, so many students. We have under 500 at Franz and Crestview and Columbia. So I really don't visit those other areas. What about where you are, Richard? Do y'all have a reception?
At least 2 or 3 legal reasons, at least 2 or 3 come.
Reception?
Yeah, no, we have reception. The reason we have one is because turnover.
Oh, your kid.
They have the largest turnover in this district. Kids are checking in and out. That's why I put one over there. The reason, and the highest poverty in this entire district, 96%. There's three reasons I put because of the highest poverty, and I put every campus that have over 800 kids, I put one in there. But if y'all want to put one in there in every school, if y'all want to do that, we're gonna get this information to you. So it doesn't bother me one way or another. I don't care.
It's not the response.
It's gonna be paid.
Hold it, then
It's gonna
I'll
cost
come
money.
back and say something.
So we'll give it to you in writing, and y'all can tell us next meeting which way you want to go.
Well,
I don't care.
there was one other thing that I did want, since we're asking right now, because like I said, I was giving that stuff to Jackie, but
That
the
way
other
you have the
thing.
detail.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing wasn't necessarily, for y'all, a request, was probably more for Teresa, for our chief of police, but I also was curious of what we offer to our employees right now as, first responder type, intruder type training. What we offer, what we could potentially offer, because that's my goal. The reason I'm looking at this is safety. The reason I'm looking at locking doors and having cameras and having a receptionist, because there's nothing like a human being. You can put a robot somewhere, but it's not a human being. That's why I want a receptionist, or I'm proposing that. But I want to know what training are we offering too, because I don't want to just say, let's spend this extra $200,000 to put someone at the front door and not offer training for what would you do in an intruder situation. So that was my other part, and I think that might be more on someone else, but that was the other thing I wanted. Right, well, what are we doing for training now? What could we be doing? I don't know that, so that's what I'm asking.
And my concern is, to me, it's very important that when a parent comes to a school, that they are received right away. Not that they're waiting there because we have one secretary, which some of them do. I might not be able to get to that parent right away or receive them. Good morning, how are you?
Can I help you? What can I do for you? To me, oh, I'm sorry, the phone is ringing, I'm the only one here. And then you left the parent there.
We never
It's-
have that problem at Ed Brand.
Ma'am,
No, there's always a person at that front desk. Now, I know we have a principal secretary, we have a dean clerk or something. We have somebody because we always have somebody there. Yeah, I've never, in all the years I've had school kids in this district, I've never not been met. And I've never not been met at Kitty Hawk either. So I don't know, I can't tell you about the other ones, but my kids' schools have always done that way.
Well, and then it's also, and I agree, every campus seems to make a huge effort, but you also look into the entryway areas, because the entryway, the setup of every school is different, plus where people's offices are, the P's clerk and all these people, the P's clerk, I promise, at Towns has a very different job in terms of work level than they do at Masters or Converse, and they also have offices, so they can't necessarily be doing their job. So I've heard a lot of people say, well, why can't the principal secretary man the front desk? Why can't the P's clerk? But it's because they have jobs.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. I would support what the superintendent is saying when you get to a certain level of kids. Maybe you don't want the 800, but I don't think the schools with 300 and 400, I don't think they need one.
Right, well, and again, I would just also encourage that we look at the layout of the campus too, because some of our campuses are much better set up in terms of you can't just walk onto a campus and some of them are. So it goes in hand with my whole, request for information on walking schools and cameras, because that makes me feel.
Now, would you be willing to also find a compromise in getting these personnel where we have hall monitors in lieu of all these extra police when you want? Because we can get more hall monitors if you can get more policemen for every campus.
Well, that's a little different than what I'm talking about.
Just giving you-
Front entry. I'm talking about front entry, first response. We can talk about that on.
I'm just giving you something to think
But,
about.
yeah, no, I mean, we can. I just, we can talk about that.
Always got that.
finish, ladies, because I still had the floor, okay? I'm sorry. I still had the
We're
floor.
gonna let you have the
But,
conclusion of the whole thing.
no, and what I wanted to say is our PR for our parents is very, very important. So I think I'm glad Dr. Mackey is going to take care of that for us. We'll get the information, then we can decide at that time. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night.